does not have carte blanche ability to barge into the living room of these parents working in consultation with doctors for the health and well-being of their children. Moreover, this legislation, SB 14, is targeted to transgender youth and their families only. We cannot live in the state of Texas and have Texas constitutional rights being usurped by the state of Texas that is guaranteed to every other parent, that is guaranteed to doctors to follow the science, to follow the provision of care that is proven to be safe, effective, and medically necessary.
Thank you. And we our families, their children, GLAMA, PFLAG, and our amazing doctors who came forward to fight against SB 14. We're also grateful to organizations like Equality Texas and TENT for leading the way in this fight. We know that SB 14 is reaching into people's homes and telling parents how to raise their children. And we know that parents know their children. We know that parents know what type of care their children need. But now, Texas is saying, no, you can't do this, despite the fact that every major medical association says this is medically safe, effective care. Texas politicians' attack on transgender youth and their families is unnecessarily cruel. Transgender people will always exist and have existed for a long time in all of history. And the vast majority of Texans support transgender people and young people having access to medically necessary care. Youth deserve better. Families deserve better. Doctors deserve better. Texans of all races, genders, and backgrounds all deserve access to medical care. No matter what happens at the end of the day, we will continue to fight for transgender youth and their families to have the freedom to make the medical decisions that are best for them. Thank you.
Question.
I'm just curious about your thoughts on some of the state's arguments when they were talking about how some of these treatments and what they say, like mentioning the 89-year-olds being sterilized.
Could you speak up a little bit? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about what you thought about the state's arguments when they were mentioning the 89-year-olds getting sterilized for some of these treatments. Can you talk about your thoughts on that?
8 and 9-year-olds are not getting sterilized. No child is receiving gender-affirming care until they hit puberty. So these types of allegations are completely false. This is safe medical care approved by all major medical associations in the United States.
Other questions?
Do you have any sense of the way the court was leaning based on the questions you heard today?
We appreciate that the Texas Supreme Court was really engaged in conversation and that we had the opportunity to highlight the harms of the youth that are impacted by SB 14. It's important to highlight the fact that what's at core is infringement of our Texas Constitution, infringement of parental rights to make decisions about the best course of care for their children, and the fact that there are real young people who are being impacted. You're talking about splitting up families in order to receive access to care outside the state. You're talking about people uplifting their lives in order to move, in order to ensure that their young children and adolescents grow up to be healthy, happy individuals. As Texans, the Texas Constitution does not protect some, it protects all, and that includes the parental right to make decision making and the doctor's rights to provide the care that is supported by every major medical association.
And I want to take a moment for people to really think about this. You have a child who's struggling, who's not doing well, who might be inflicting harm. And then you have access to treatment. And you think, I got my child back. And I say that because I have had so many parents say that to me. I got my child back. And then you have to make a decision. Do you leave the state, possibly leaving one of your children behind, just to ensure that your other child will have access to that care? And you know what the outcome could be if they don't access it. That is a heart-wrenching decision that no Texan should have to make, but we are seeing that happen already.
Have you gotten any indication on when the court could make a ruling?
No, it's up to the court as far as the timing is concerned, and so we have no idea at what point the court may make its decision. But again, we are happy to make our case before the Texas Supreme Court. We think the district court was right and appropriate in issuing its injunction against SB 14, and the state cannot short circuit our ability to get a fair trial and remand the case back to court so we can address those issues with evidence, with additional things to be able to continue to highlight the stories of the families that are affected. But at its core, the trial court did not commit any error in issuing a temporary injunction to block the law as long as as this case proceeds.
Just to follow up on that, what kind of impact do you think another trial would have, especially with these testimonials, to maybe impacting the way people view, transitioning care?
Okay.
It's important for people to be able to tell their stories. We hear that all the time, that there's so much misinformation out there. So many people don't really know what's going on in people's lives. People don't know what it's like to not have access to that life-saving care. And since we only had a 2-day hearing for our injunction, for our preliminary injunction, we hope to go back and really dive into and tell the stories of these young people, of these brave doctors who have put themselves on the line, really providing this, I say it again, life-saving care. And also to bring in the experts, because all of our experts support this. And these are people who have done this work for 30, 40 years, some of them. And we want their voices heard. We want the young people's voices heard. We want the families heard. And we also want the doctors heard, because it's really important for everyone to have a better understanding of the impact of SB 14 on people's lives.
Following up on that, it sounded like the attorney that was on your side, and it sounded like you kind of reiterated that you want this to go back to a trial court rather than have the Supreme Court kind of just make or break, this is constitutional, this is unconstitutional. What's the benefit from your perspective on sending this back to trial rather than, even if it was on your side, having the court say this is unconstitutional?
Well, it's the system that we have here in Texas.
Yes.
The trial court ruled preliminarily. It was an abbreviated decision. And while the Texas Supreme Court may believe they have enough information, it surely was not sufficient to be able to suss out, the evidence that will be presented in a more fulsome trial. And we know from cases across the country that when judges hear from the experts, when they hear from the families, when they understand and assess credibility determinations, those decisions, the vast majority of them, come in our favor. And that's because not only has the court being the gatekeeper of proper evidence and the rules of evidence, applying the rules of evidence, which do not get applied during the legislative session, can we really understand what is at impact with what is at issue with SB 14, and judges and the public at large can better understand what's at stake for these families. Well, I'm going to Tom, in case you have any sort of follow-up questions or you need to contact either one of us or other folks from our team who may be available, please leave your contact information with Tom. But we certainly appreciate everyone's time today and sitting through the arguments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.